The Brady Bunch may have redefined the American family sitcom, but behind those iconic opening grid squares was a cast marked by heartbreak, addiction, and tragedy. Fame did not save them. In fact, it pushed many toward endings darker than any storyline Mike and Carol Brady ever had to solve in 30 minutes. Nearly 52 years after the show's final episode aired, their stories remain so haunting that once you hear them, you'll never watch this classic the same way again. The smiling faces that taught us about sibling rivalry, first dates, and family values were hiding demons that would eventually consume some of them entirely. What happened when the cameras stopped rolling reveals a Hollywood nightmare disguised as a family dream, and the real tragedy is that most of America never knew the truth until it was far too late. Robert Reed was born on October 19, 1932 in Highland Park, Illinois. He was 37 years old when he stepped into the role of Mike Brady, the wise, patient architect who became America's idealized father figure. By the time he joined the Brady Bunch, Reed was already an established television actor with serious theatrical training from the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London, and he viewed situation comedy as beneath his talents. But behind that calm, reassuring smile was a man living in perpetual conflict with himself and the world around him. Reed despised the Brady Bunch with an intensity that shocked his co-stars. He regularly fought with creator Sherwood Schwartz over what he considered ridiculous scripts, once refusing to appear in the series finale because he found the storyline about Greg's hair turning orange too absurd. Yet his professional frustration was merely a shield protecting a far more devastating secret. Reed was a closeted gay man in an era when such revelation would have destroyed his career and shattered the wholesome image that made him famous. He had been briefly married to Marilyn Rosenberger and had a daughter, but he lived most of his adult life hiding his true identity, carrying the weight of that deception like a stone around his neck. As the years passed after the Brady Bunch ended, Reed continued working steadily in television, appearing in medical dramas and miniseries, but the internal war never ceased. He became known in Hollywood circles for his sexuality, yet publicly maintained the facade of the all-American father. The stress of this double life, combined with his frustration at being forever typecast as Mike Brady, a role he never respected, created a man increasingly isolated and bitter. Behind closed doors, Reed struggled with the knowledge that his most famous role was also his greatest prison, celebrated for portraying heterosexual family values while hiding who he truly was. Robert Reed died on May 12, 1992, at the age of 59 from colon cancer. But his death certificate revealed what he had hidden for decades. He had been HIV positive, and AIDS-related complications contributed to his death. The man who played America's most trusted father died alone with his secret, never having lived openly or honestly during the height of his fame. It remains a tragic fate for someone who brought comfort to millions while finding none for himself, forced to choose between authenticity and career until the very end. Florence Henderson was born on February 14, 1934, in Dale, Indiana, the youngest of 10 children in a desperately poor family. She was 35 years old when she stepped into the role of Carol Brady, the eternally optimistic mother whose patience and wisdom made her the maternal ideal for a generation. Henderson was already a Broadway star and had performed at Lincoln Center, bringing genuine theatrical credentials to a role that would ultimately define and limit her career. Yet beneath that radiant smile and perfect blonde bob was a woman who had survived a childhood marked by poverty and her father's alcoholism. Henderson rarely spoke publicly about the darkness of her early years, the hunger, the instability, the fear that shaped her determination to succeed. Her drive to escape that past fueled her professional success, but also led her into a troubled first marriage to theatrical producer Hy Zarette, a union marked by his infidelity and her growing realization that she had married partly for security rather than love. The pressure of maintaining her wholesome image while her personal life crumbled created an internal tension that Henderson masked with her trademark optimism. But those close to her knew the smile sometimes hid genuine pain. As the years passed through the 70s and 80s, Henderson found herself trapped by Carol Brady's shadow. She hosted cooking shows, made countless guest appearances, and participated in every Brady reunion special. But serious dramatic roles eluded her. The industry that celebrated her as America's mom offered little opportunity for her to demonstrate her considerable talents beyond that narrow image. Her second marriage to hypnotherapist John Kappas lasted 29 years until his death in 2002, and she found some measure of personal happiness. But professionally, she remained forever Carol Brady, singing about sunshine and solving problems with pot roast. Florence Henderson died on November 24, 2016, at the age of 82 from heart failure. She passed away suddenly, just one day after attending a taping of Dancing with the Stars, still working and performing until the very end. While her death itself was not marked by the darkness that claimed some of her co-stars, the cruel twist of her legacy remains. A woman of immense talent and range, reduced in the public consciousness to a single role that she could never escape, her real story of survival and resilience overshadowed by the fictional perfection she portrayed on screen. Ann B. Davis was born on May 3, 1926 in Schenectady, New York, one of twins born into a middle-class family. She was 43 years old when she stepped into the role of Alice Nelson, the wisecracking housekeeper whose blue uniform and deadpan delivery made her the show's comic heart. Davis had already won 2 Emmy Awards for The Bob Cummings Show in the 1950s, establishing herself as a gifted comedic actress with impeccable timing. But behind the one-liners and the comic physical business was a woman who had made a devastating choice that would shape the rest of her life. Davis never married, never had children, and never publicly discussed romantic relationships of any kind. In 1976, just 2 years after the Brady Bunch ended, she made a decision that shocked Hollywood. She left show business almost entirely and moved to a religious compound in Pennsylvania, run by Episcopal Bishop William Frey. Davis became deeply involved in evangelical Christianity, attending daily services and dedicating her life to faith in a way that suggested she was fleeing from something rather than running toward enlightenment. Those who knew her suspected that Davis, like Robert Reed, carried secrets about her personal life that the era would not have accepted, and that her retreat into religion was both sanctuary and prison. Through the decades that followed, Davis lived an increasingly isolated existence, appearing occasionally in Brady reunion specials, but otherwise withdrawn from the world that had once celebrated her. She rarely gave interviews, and when she did, she spoke only of her faith and her gratitude for Alice Nelson, never revealing the woman behind the character. The loneliness of her later years was profound. A talented actress who had brought laughter to millions living in near solitude, having sacrificed personal happiness for reasons she would never fully explain. Her choice to abandon Hollywood at the height of her fame remains one of the era's great mysteries, a retreat so complete it suggested not peace but escape. Ann B. Davis died on June 1, 2014, at the age of 88 after falling and hitting her head in her bathroom at the San Antonio home she shared with a retired Episcopal bishop and his wife. She never regained consciousness, dying 2 days later in a hospital, surrounded by the religious community that had become her family. It was a quiet, lonely end for someone who had once been at the center of one of America's most beloved television families. A tragic fate for a woman who brought joy to countless homes while apparently finding little for herself, taking her secrets to the grave. Barry Williams was born Barry William Blankhorn on September 30, 1954 in Santa Monica, California. He was just 14 years old when he stepped into the role of Greg Brady, the oldest son whose teenage adventures with dating, music, and growing pains made him the heartthrob of the Brady Bunch. Williams was a child actor thrust into sudden fame, becoming a teen idol while still navigating puberty himself. Yet, beneath the feathered hair and winning smile was a boy growing up without privacy, every adolescent mistake documented and magnified. Williams developed an intense crush on his television mother, Florence Henderson, a story he would later reveal in his autobiography to the shock and discomfort of many fans. Their relationship, while apparently remaining appropriate, revealed the psychological confusion of a teenager, blurring the lines between the fictional family and his real emotional needs. This early inability to separate character from reality would haunt Williams throughout his adult life, as he struggled to establish an identity beyond Greg Brady. As the years passed into the 80s and 90s, Williams found himself trapped in show business purgatory. He was too famous to disappear, but not talented or lucky enough to break through into serious adult roles. He toured in second-tier musical theater productions, appeared in countless Brady reunion specials and variety shows, and made a living trading on his past rather than building a future. His personal life became tabloid fodder: multiple marriages and divorces, financial struggles, and the constant indignity of being introduced not by his name, but as Greg Brady from the Brady Bunch. The industry that had made him famous as a child offered little support as he aged, and Williams watched as opportunities dried up while the albatross of his most famous role hung permanently around his neck. Through the 2000s and beyond, Williams has survived, but at what cost? Now 71 years old in 2026, he continues to make appearances at nostalgia conventions, signing autographs for fans who want to remember him as he was at 16. He has never achieved the career breakthrough he desperately sought, never been recognized as anything more than a former child star. While he is alive, unlike some of his co-stars, his story remains a tragedy of a different sort, a life lived in the permanent shadow of adolescence, forever frozen as Greg Brady while Barry Williams grew old, invisible beneath the image. The cruel twist is that his survival may be more painful than escape, forced to watch himself age while the world insists on remembering him young, handsome, and forever singing Johnny Bravo in a puffy shirt. Maureen McCormick was born on August 5, 1956 in Encino, California. She was just 13 years old when she stepped into the role of Marcia Brady, the beautiful, popular oldest daughter whose golden hair and sunny disposition made her the envy of teenage girls across America. McCormick became the face of wholesome teen femininity, the girl every boy wanted to date and every girl wanted to be. But behind those sparkling blue eyes was a child descending into a nightmare that would nearly destroy her. McCormick's family carried a dark secret. Her grandmother and one of her uncles had died by suicide, a genetic legacy of depression and mental illness that would manifest in Maureen's own life with devastating force. As the Brady Bunch ended and McCormick entered her 20s, she began a catastrophic spiral into cocaine addiction, bulimia, and depression that would last for decades. The pressure of maintaining her perfect image while her mind unraveled created a psychological break that she masked with drugs and self-destruction. She later revealed that she had engaged in prostitution to support her cocaine habit, trading on her Marcia Brady fame in the darkest possible way, men paying to sleep with America's sweetheart while she was too high to fully comprehend what she had become. Through the 1980s and into the 1990s, McCormick's decline was marked by failed career attempts, broken relationships, and increasing isolation. She was offered the role of Jennifer in The Facts of Life, but her drug addiction caused her to blow the audition. She lost role after role as her reputation for unreliability spread through Hollywood. The industry that celebrated her as Marcia Brady offered little compassion for the broken woman she had become, and McCormick found herself unemployable, broke, and suicidal. Her marriage to actor Michael Cummings in 1985 was rocky for years as she battled her demons, and there were times when survival itself seemed uncertain. Maureen McCormick did not die, but in many ways the woman she might have been did. Now 69 years old in 2026, she has been sober for years and has written candidly about her struggles, but the decades of abuse took their toll. Her face shows the ravages of addiction and age, bearing little resemblance to the golden girl who once smiled from television screens. Her career never recovered. She works occasionally in low-budget films and reality shows, but the A-list stardom once within reach vanished forever. The most heartbreaking element of her story is the loss of potential, a talented actress and singer whose life was derailed by mental illness, addiction, and the impossible burden of being perfect. She survived, but at tremendous cost, and the shadow of Marcia Brady, pretty, popular, problem-free Marcia, remains her greatest curse, a reminder of what she was supposed to be and could never sustain. Nearly 52 years after the Brady Bunch ended, it remains a cultural touchstone, syndicated endlessly and beloved by generations who grew up with the Brady family. Yet the real lives behind it are far more tragic than any storyline involving lost mascots or broken vases. From closeted identities to crushing addiction, from forgotten talents to the prison of perpetual childhood, every member of the cast carried a story the cameras never captured. Robert Reed died hiding who he was. Ann B. Davis retreated into religious isolation. Maureen McCormick nearly destroyed herself trying to escape Marcia's shadow. Barry Williams grew old playing a teenager. Florence Henderson's considerable talents were reduced to a single maternal image. These were real people with real pain, and the wholesome fantasy they created for us came at a cost most of us never imagined. Which journey struck you the most? Comment below, and don't forget to subscribe as we continue to uncover the forgotten truths behind Hollywood's greatest legends.